Welcome back, everyone. Today we'll be discussing the Jordan 3 Muslin, also known as the Jordan 3 Canvas. Specifically, we'll be discussing whether it should sell or hold the Jordan 3 Muslin and why that is. To preface this, if you guys enjoy these types of videos regarding the market, reselling, and even info on how to acquire these limited products, be sure to subscribe and enable post notifications. This way you're always 100% updated. Furthermore, for more urgent updates like the recent shock drops we have been seeing, follow my Twitter, KeithAdam10, and also personals for you. And of course, for early information before these drops actually occur, follow Endurance's Twitter for updates on the next restock. For those who don't know, the Jordan 3 Muslin releases on March 25th, tomorrow. Retail will be $210. Stock between all sizes combined worldwide is under 90,000 pairs, which is just below average for a Jordan 3 general release. In order to determine if the Jordan 3 Muslin will be a fruitful hold or not, we will cover an estimated range of what the sneaker will settle at after the drop, and also when shipments come in, essentially the pairs going in circulation, whether they're expected to increase post-drop or even hypothetically decrease, along with how much specifically over specific periods of time, and finally, what type of margin are we looking at for these in terms of holding. Not the retail to resale initial margin, but rather just the hold margin over X period of time. Basically, even if these do go up, are they going to be worth your time or not? Kicking it off, let's discuss the estimated range these should be settling at. To begin with, again, stock for these is just below average for Jordan 3 general release, so that in itself won't have too much of a unique effect. However, we also know that some retailers have delayed shipments for these, and even the Europe release in total is delayed to the 31st of March, so we'll discuss why that is important very soon. Similar to the recent Jordan 3 Cardinal, pre-sale on these is actually quite impressive, in fact even more so than the Cardinals were, but again, may I remind you that many shipments are delayed, so there are less pairs in circulation for pre-sale, thus inflating the pre-sale artificially. Bids actually do look quite impressive, however, the sale volume certainly does not, unfortunately. Although there are sales in the mid to high 300 range, the quantity of them is substantially lower in comparison to other general release Jordans, such as the Jordan 3 Cardinal, for example. Sales for these Jordan 3 Muslins dating back to the 20th are the same total quantity as only a few hours of the Jordan 3 Cardinal sales were pre-drop. Hence, with the just hardly below average stock, and I'd say good demand because it's not great with the sale volume being this low, there still should be sufficient room for profit with a decent to good margin on these. Now, regarding a specific range, prices have already seen the vast majority of their pre-drop decrease since it is the night before now. This leaves the current average at about $317 for sizes 8 to 12, but of course, this is only the pre-drop average. We normally see a notable change post-US drop. This is when we normally experience what I like to refer to as the impulsivity effect. Yes, you know what I'm referring to by now, as we discuss this very frequently, yet it almost always occurs to some degree. Regarding the impulsivity effect, if you haven't watched my seller hold videos before, sneaker drops specifically impact human impulsiveness significantly after an individual fails to acquire that desired product due to insufficient supply and too much demand. Therefore, on average, we normally see about a 5 to 10% increase of the pre-drop prices post-drop. That 5 to 10% isn't always the case, such as when a sneaker is already slightly overvalued. When it comes to these Jordan 3 Muslin, similar to the Jordan 3 Cardinal, we do have some delayed shipments for these. If you do recall, that was one of the primary reasons that we had a notable positive impulsivity effect. However, when it did come to those, there were many more already in circulation from Finish Line early access pairs and flex reservation pre-sellers, causing the pre-sale to drop a lot by itself. In this case, pre-sale has remained very high on these Jordan 3 Muslins, averaging $317 currently. So the question now becomes, even with the delayed shipments potentially provoking a positive impulsivity effect, is that enough to offset the already inflated pre-sale due to there being insufficient pairs in circulation right now? Based on the rather low sale volume, I'd have to say no. It will not be enough. Hence, despite these being limited and some shipments being delayed, I still do feel that these current prices are too inflated. So rather than a 5 to 10% increase like we normally see, I'd instead expect prices to either remain the same or see a very minor decrease post-drop of perhaps 5%. In the hypothetical case that it is a 5% decrease in price, this would hypothetically leave prices at $301 on average for sizes 8 to 12. Remember though, this is just temporary. Now let's discuss what prices will look like when shipments go out in that 1 to 2 week range. During this period, the vast majority of pairs will all be going into circulation, aside from the amount of pairs that already went out through the in-store pairs and general early pairs, and of course those that happen to be delayed. Since some of the shipments will be delayed and the Europe release isn't even until the 31st, I'd first expect this decrease period to last a little longer than the usual 1 to 2 weeks, so perhaps 2 to 3 weeks. Regardless, I'd still expect the same result of just a typical decrease in price of about 10%, nothing unusual here. This would then hypothetically leave prices at about $271, and again, large sizes will remain the best, so those may still hover in the high 200 range, with smaller sizes in the mid 200s. But now that those average price ranges at those points in time are evident, let's discuss whether they're expected to increase from the post-shipment prices or even continue to decrease. When it comes to these, I feel a pretty useful comparison would be the Jordan 3 Cool Gray, as it also consists of a very neutral base color that isn't white or black, with some contrasting vivid accent colors as well. Granted, these Jordan 3 Cool Grays did have less demand in general initially, but the important takeaway is how much of an ROI did these see over about a 1-year period. They went from a low of about $210 to currently about $250 on average, allowing for about a 20% ROI, which unfortunately isn't exactly great, especially considering how low of a price these started at, being $210. This should have left a lot of room for a good ROI, which unfortunately we didn't end up seeing. Looking at the Jordan 3 Muslin, on the other hand, these are starting at a much higher price than $210, of course, potentially as high as $300 post-drop. This makes it even harder to see an increase in a short amount of time. Hence, when it comes to these, before we do end up seeing an increase, I do feel that these may continue to decrease or just plateau for a couple of months. Eventually, I do expect them to begin increasing, but it may take a while, unfortunately, for them to just reach these current prices again, especially with the delayed shipments and Europe drop causing these prices to be inflated at the moment. So finally, regarding the hold margin on these, essentially, are these actually going to be worth your time, even if they do eventually increase? As I mentioned before, I do think that if it took the Cool Gray 3s a full year just to see a 20% ROI, despite starting significantly lower than these Muslins, it is very likely that it will take the Jordan 3 Muslins significantly longer just to see that same 20% ROI. If these do end up at $300 post-drop, hypothetically, then that would mean we need to see an increase to $400 just to see a 30% ROI, which we typically call average, which I think is very unlikely in a year, and maybe even more than that. Can they eventually? Sure, but I think that it can certainly take much longer than is ideal. Hence, with these current prices being so highly inflated, I am rating these a 3 out of 10 hold, certainly below average. I will personally be quick selling all of my pairs and taking advantage of these high prices. Also, just a note in general, for anyone considering holding any items who do have low capital, you should never hold anything in general if you don't have sufficient capital to go for as many drops as possible at your full potential without holding back. If you do need money to go for all drops, try to sell these as soon as possible while prices are very high. Let me know what you guys are doing with your pairs down in the comments below. Since this is a discussion, at the end of the day, I can't predict the future. That's just my personal analysis based on the data that I've acknowledged. We have a lot of brilliant minds watching the video right now, so I implore you to leave your notions down in the comments below. But anyway, that will conclude it for today. Feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed, or perhaps if you learned a thing or two. Subscribe and enable post notifications. This way you stay 100% updated on all hyped releases. Also, feel free to check out the links in the description below for reliable, fast, residential proxies, and pre-verified Nike sneakers or Adidas accounts. Also, feel free to follow Endurance's Twitter for updates on restocks or key giveaways, and the same goes for Gargantua if you want to keep up with the progress or restocks. Last but not least, make sure to follow Keith Adam 10 and Personals for you, so you guys stay updated on all urgent info like I was discussing today. With that though, I will see you guys later. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and of course, good luck on the drop, or if you already copped, congratulations.